Thanks, Jim, and any others for joining us. As we sort of touched on a moment ago, focus tonight is on two of our Peruvian trips, the Huayhuash Trail and the luxury Sacred Valley Explorer, which takes us all the way through to Machu Picchu. We'll start things off with the Huayhuash and a little introductory video just to get things started. I'll give it a moment for the slides to click over at your end, and then we'll get things moving. Obviously, visually is a far better way for us to sort of illustrate what this is about and where it is, versus me just using a lot of choice expletives and wondrous words. But as you can certainly see, it's a pretty stunning landscape that this one traverses. So we've certainly borrowed a little bit of that footage there just to sort of illustrate how amazing a part of Peru it is. It's And this is a little overview of the trip itself. It's 16 days, starts in Lima and concludes in Lima. We've got a couple of after the arrival day. There's a day of transit getting from Lima to Juarez, which is a long journey. It's about 8.5 hours, sometimes 9 by public bus. And then because we've gone from sea level to 3,000 meters, we allow a rest day for people to sort of acclimatize to the elevation, which is certainly a safety consideration for us and for everyone. The following couple of days, there's a couple of shorter acclimatization treks up to Laguna Huacacocha and Laguna Churup. They're only sort of half-day excursions. And then from day 6 onwards, it starts with the Huayhuash expedition proper. So there's another 4 or 5 hour transfer from Juarez up to the trailhead. And there's not much else to that day. If people are feeling up to it, there might be a little afternoon sort of just hike up the valley just to sort of stretch the legs. But yeah, at that point, we're sort of just tipping over the 4,000 meter mark. And then for the ensuing sort of 8 or 9 days, that's when the trek proper begins. As you can see on the map to our left, it's a bit of a circuit. It loops its way around with a variety of excitingly and exotically named campsites. Um, some of the highlights you can sort of see on the right hand side, and we'll touch on them in a little bit more detail later. And I think we're sort of walking around in the shadows. I think it's 6 or 7, 6 out of 6. I can't even talk. 6,000 meter peaks, and some incredible sort of valley views. And I think we're topping out just over 5,000 meters when we cross through a couple of the passes, the Trapecio and the Urao or the Santa Rosa Pass. So it's certainly getting up with a bit of height, hence why we take those days to acclimatize. As you can see at the very bottom, just a couple of departure dates for the year, one in May and one in September. Quite deliberately chosen, those dates, but we'll again sort of touch on that a little bit more later. The other thing you'll possibly note on the itinerary is all the meals are sort of noted as a breakfast, lunch, or dinner with the little BLD. Not all of the meals are included. It just gives you a little bit of freedom to sort of pick and choose. And obviously, when we're in the remote and hiking, all of that part of the expedition is certainly catered for. Just moving along. So some of the highlights of the Huayhuash. We get to view the famous Sula Grande and the Sula Glacier, made rather famous through Joe Simpson's incredible tale of survival, Touching the Void, which, if you're not familiar with, can certainly be read in his book. And I think about 20 years ago, it was made into a movie as well. Certainly a pretty epic story, and it certainly put the region on the map in a positive light. Historically, like going back not too long ago, it was actually a bit of a haven for the Shining Path guerrillas, who were communists that were in conflict with the government, and so it was certainly not a safe place to go. Fortunately, they're all gone now, and some of the old camps remain, but beyond that, there's no sort of imminent threat in that regard to people other than the natural environment itself. Ascending 4,500 to 5,000 meter passes and the breathtaking results of that, both physically and the views that it affords us. It's certainly a pretty challenging and stunning region. One of the more famous being the Three Lagoons, or the Tres Lagunas, which we get to see, I think, on day 4 or 5 of the hike. and just the fact that we're remote camping in the remote. One of the highlights, especially being Metacocha, but everywhere is some amazing campsites, and you're certainly out there in one with nature. So Huayhuash, just a bit of an introduction. So it is in the Andes of Peru, to the north of the country, which gets a lot fewer visitors than its more famous southern regions. It's celebrated through dramatic peaks, deep valleys, and diverse ecosystems, and draws trekkers from around the globe seeking adventure and natural beauty. Just touching on that, it's considered one of the premium, if not the best, hikes in all of South America, and some people certainly claim it's among the best in the world. Um, the trek itself encompasses some stunning highlights as Lake Viconga, the Sula Grande, which we've already touched on, panoramic views and climbs that challenge every hiker's endurance and commitment. Renowned for its breathtaking landscapes and challenging routes, think tough ascents, high altitude, and only camp comforts. Communal dining tents, individual tents for sleeping, that sort of thing. It's you certainly we're not staying in refugios or chalets and things like that. So this one really is a bit more of a challenge, throwing in the altitude as well. The trek, as we said earlier, there's only two departures for 2025 in May and September. This one's priced at 6,000 AUD per person. We need a minimum of two trekkers for it to go ahead and a maximum of 14. Look, generally the group sizes we anticipate being in that sort of 6 to 8, but 2 to 4 is not uncommon as well. It is one of the toughest adventures we have in the No Rose collection. It's dealing with long distances, the high elevation, and it's just it takes a lot of work, and even the fittest people can sometimes succumb to the altitude. 11 days of actual hiking in the Cordillera Huayhuash, 2 of those being the acclimatization hikes, and a 16-day total trip. Elevations from sea level through to 3,000 meters and up to over 5,000, with most of the trekking being above 4,000 meters. So again, it really is quite high. 8 nights camping, all led by a local certified guide, um, and assisted by a crew of trekking donkeys and support team. So you won't be carrying your big pack. Obviously, just smaller packs with the necessary things, and then any sort of larger belongings would be carried by the donkeys or the mules. Difficulty level and preparation. So this one's rated as challenging. The trek requires physical fitness, acclimatization, and proper training. Participants should prepare for high altitudes and unpredictable weather conditions. It is the mountains. Things can change at any time. And even when it is bright sunshine, it can be pretty cold. As we said, we give the 4 nights in Juarez at 3,000 meters and a couple of acclimatization hikes just to get trekkers prepared as best as possible. And as I said, like the other factor that a lot of people do forget, because a lot of the imagery you see is beautiful sunlit hillsides and mountainsides, is that it's just can get cold. So you really need to sort of prepare for that and pack accordingly. Um, The region, it's home to local communities with a lot of rich traditions. Even though we're miles away from seemingly anywhere in the mountains, there are villages and little communities that live up there, whether they be grazing wildlife, be they llamas or sheep, or sort of living a bit of subsistence lifestyle. We believe that engaging with the locals and understanding their way of life really enhances the whole trekking experience. And most of our campsites utilize these local communities in their hospitality, so we'll often, where possible, camp beside the villages, use their sort of toiletry facilities, etc., to do our best, is also just to not sully the local landscape and the environment. Now, when it comes to the gear, essential gear for any hike, and this one especially, is durable and well worn in boots or broken in boots. Layers for the temperature changes, as we touched on earlier. Again, trekking poles, even if they're not something you normally use, there's so much in the way of ascent and descent, and often on uneven ground with this hike, that we would certainly recommend them for anybody. And equally important is sleeping bags rated for at least -10, just as an indicator for how cold it can actually get. Like it's not uncommon for people to be walking, obviously talking about -10s overnight, especially on a clear night, to during the day it being in the low to mid teens. So it's quite a temperature range. People could be going from a light hoodie to a windbreaker jacket to the full thermals and everything in over the course of a day. A little bit like Melbourne weather, really. So proper equipment, crucial for safety and comfort along the trek. And we provide an overview to all the trekkers with a complete list of what you're required to provide for yourself or look to hire. Um, as we said, nothing beats tried and tested gear. But in a pinch, if you've forgotten something or lost something, a lot of it can be obtained in Juarez or Lima, because we certainly appreciate that luggage can get lost en route or, as we said, forgotten. A bit of wildlife and scenery. So it is rich in wildlife despite its remote situation. Things like the Andean condors and the llamas, which I guess most people expect when they head to South America, and also a diverse array of flora. As I said, many of the peaks tower well above 5 to 6,000 meters, with the 6,634 Europaya, the highest in the Huayhuash, and it's also the second highest mountain in Peru in all. And obviously the valley views are stunning. You just have to climb up there to get to them. But it's certainly a fitting reward for all of the effort. Safety considerations. So, trekking at high altitudes comes with its own set of challenges. Altitude sickness and the ever changing and sudden changing weather. Our team carries oxygen stretchers and oxygen saturation meters to sort of help best deal with this situation. And they'll always have the final word or the final say when it comes to assessing the weather conditions, whether the party can continue or need to stop or hunker down, whatever that may be. We never leave that to the guests. It may be done with a bit of consultation, but they'll always have the final say because they're the experienced ones. They know the conditions, they know the environment, or at least the local environment, and to us, safety is paramount for both them and for yourselves. A window to trek is from April to October. However, May to September is probably the optimum time. There's less rain, the weather conditions are more stable, and less chance of snow blocking the high passes. Yeah, and uh, unfortunately, the as a general rule, the days are a little bit cooler, which doesn't serve us especially well in the high mountains, but it certainly makes for a drier experience. And as you can see in this little image here, even though it is bright sunshine, uh, head to toe with the pack, the trousers, the gloves, the boots, the poles, and the windbreaker jacket. So even though it looks like a lovely, I guess May day, it's obviously still pretty cold as well. The travel logistics. So it takes a long time to get to the whole Huayhuash region. The planning, transportation to the trailhead and permits, all that we take care of. A bit of a change. This is a new one we've only recently discovered. The domestic airport in Juarez, which has been uh, constructed years ago, but has only finally become operable for domestic flights. That's opened in the recent months. And so that now gives us the option of a 1 hour flight as opposed to the 8 hour bus that we've actually got in the existing itinerary. And also, as we said, there's the 4 to 5 to 6 hours, depending on conditions, transfer to the trailhead. But just touching on again the flight option. It's something we're sort of now that we're aware of it, we're investigating how we can include that in the itinerary. Obviously, it frees up a lot of time, and what it potentially does is means that the day that it's a travel day, that can become the arrival day and the rest day. So that day that's presently in the itinerary as a rest day can either be replaced by an extra day on the hike, an extra acclimatization hike, or potentially removed altogether just to make it a slightly smaller and shorter itinerary if that works better for people with timing. We think ideally we'd probably like to rather than sort of reduce the trek, just give trekkers the added trekking day so they can experience more of the Huayhuash. But obviously that comes down to overall cost because we don't want to we want to keep it as affordable and economical for people as possible. But if anything does change, we'll certainly be in communication with anybody that's interested or has booked on the trip. So don't stress too much in that regard. Everything will be quite transparent if any changes are made. Just a few answers to a few of the frequently asked questions we do get. Being as remote as it is, there's no charging points for batteries on the trek. Cameras or phones or other devices And the cold and the altitude can cause said batteries to drain really quickly. So always bring spares, keep them warm as best as possible. And some people even sleep with them just to keep them a little bit warmer than being sort of exposed. The maximum pack weight for people that are bringing obviously people that bring a bag, but for the bags that you do bring is 15 kilos. And the reason for this is we don't want to overburden the donkeys that are carrying everything. And obviously they're more acclimatized to the altitude, but they're still trekking over some very, very high passes. And there are a few circumstances where it's too high for them. So they might sort of take an alternate route whilst we trek over up and through the passes. Um, but that's sort of a situational thing. But yeah, so that's the reason for that. Just to reiterate, it is a hard trek. Not to scare you, just to prepare you. Um, and as I said earlier, whilst we recommend bringing your own, there is some gear that is available for hire at a variety of prices depending what it is, especially sleeping bags. The local team do have some sleeping bags for hire. We just need to know in advance so we can assess the availability of them. It is also possible to leave some of your valuables and travel documents, etc., in Juarez at the office. They've got a safe there that we can lock everything away. Yeah, so that's certainly an option for people as well. They don't have to be taking everything through the mountains. It's a hell of a trek to retrieve it if you lose something halfway through the hike. Um, yeah, so that's a bit of a wrap for the Huayhuash. Now segueing in something very different, but equally exciting for us, and that's the luxury Sacred Valley experience. Experience the rich heritage and breathtaking landscapes of Peru, Sacred Valley, where adventure meets luxury on your journey to Machu Picchu. So it does still finish at Machu Picchu, which is, I guess, the bucket list item and the highlight of many people's visit to the Cusco and Sacred Valley region. We'll start again with another little video just to sort of showcase some of the valley, some of the activities, and some of a few shots from the hotel as well. I'll have a little sip while we do that. Excuse me. So as you can see from the video there, this is a multi-activity trip, the Lux Sacred Valley. So it encompasses, I think, 4 or 5 days of hiking. There's a day in there to Lake Waipo where it has some water sports, the SUP or the stand-up paddleboarding, and then there's a bit of an e-bike ride to Morass, the salt pans. This one, you should note, it starts in Lima with the arrival day and then a little bit of a city tour before the transfer flights to Cusco. But it does finish in Cusco. So it's a start in Lima, finish in Cusco itinerary. Both points are well connected with international flights. So that's not an issue there. You can actually see on the side the Morass salt pans. That's almost like a living museum. They're still in operation, and it's a as the name suggests, it's an area where they harvest the salt. They fill the ponds and let the sun do its work, and then they'll retrieve the salt from there. And the bottom there is a little shot of Ayanta, which is an ancient Sacred Valley sort of Incan village. Um, in the hills above, you've got the Incan ruins, but even the town itself is a bit of a little snapshot of what life was with still functioning Incan plumbing. And it's from that point where people sort of start or finish their train journey all the way through to Aguascalientes and Machu Picchu itself. So as you can see on the trip, same sort of thing. All the included meals are highlighted with the breakfast or the breakfast, lunch, or dinner, the BLD. And on day 9 there, the highlight, as I say, for many is Machu Picchu itself. And then from there, the following day, it's back to Cusco where they'll look at some more ruins above the city at Sacsayhuaman and on to Cusco itself before the final day is heading onwards to your next adventure or further travels. 2 dates again, very similar dates to what we have in the system at the moment for the Huayhuash. Another May trip and also an October trip. The limiting one for us with this one at the moment is just the availability of the hotel. It's touch on that a little bit more shortly, but the Lux experience, as I said just now, 2 departures for 2025, May and October, $7,900 per person AUD for the trip. That's based on twin share or doubles. There is a single supplement if somebody does wish that, 2350 AUD. Starts in Lima, finishes Cusco. Multi-activity trip, so hike, bike, and paddle, or not, should you prefer not to. That's the beauty of the Lux experience. All of these activities are included, but it's your trip. If you decide on any given day you just want to have a rest and relax at the hotel, whether it be reading, drinking, or indulging in a spa experience, that's entirely up to you. Get to enjoy part of the famed Inca Trail without the camping, which is a bonus for some people, and lovely luxury accommodation within the Sacred Valley itself. Minimum 4 people required for this one, and a maximum of 12. So it really is an exclusive experience. Just a little bit more on top of the itinerary and activities, a blend of cultural adventure and relaxation activities, visiting major archaeological sites, guided, and the additional physical activities that we said, such as the biking or the e-biking and the stand-up paddleboarding. Each day has been curated to provide a comprehensive and immersive Sacred Valley experience. Just something a little bit different to the standard offering. Lux living. So this is what it's all about. This whole trip has been built around the Hacienda Urubamba, which will be where we stay in the Sacred Valley. It's our home away from home, an incredible location, amazing food, like 4 course a la carte dinners every night, with included glass of wine. Most of the ingredients they harvest directly from their own garden, which is a 10-acre lot, where they really embrace that sort of farm to table, earth to table concept. And guests are welcome to sort of explore that as well, and even harvest or pick some of the vegetables, etc., for themselves. Um, for a bit of added comfort, there is a spa as well, and it too has its own little garden where guests can pick herbs for their own personalized spa treatments. Um, yeah, it's just a incredible location. A little bit about just getting around. So travel within the Sacred Valley itself is by private vehicles. They'll take us to the trailhead and back from there, or to the activity, whatever it may be. And the rest of the I guess conveyancing comes down to us, whether it be us getting about by foot, on an e-bike, or pottering around Lake Waipo, on a paddleboard. So yeah, really is something a bit different. Dining and the cuisine. So as we sort of said about how they sort of get the food to you, this is a little snapshot of what is available and in the dining room itself. So a stunning sort of Sacred Valley backdrop. Got like the sort of the buffet breakfasts and really sort of elevated dining experience. Um, all featuring local ingredients, traditional Peruvian cuisine, um, savor the meals. Yeah, and the acreage itself, they really focus on traditional farming techniques and traditional ingredients. So it's like a living museum. So they farm the old ways and they use the old tools, and it's something you can certainly experience and sort of get to see. So as I said, something of a living museum that's exclusive to the guests at the hacienda, which is really nice. Lima and Cusco, because obviously it does start and finish there. And in Lima, we stay in the Miraflores district at the Casa Republica Branco. Uh, really, I guess sort of vibrant area. It's on the coast. Lots of international travelers, lots of eateries, restaurants, things to see. So it's a really sort of happening and lively area. And in Cusco, which in itself is like a living museum. It's an amazing place if you've not been. We stay at Antigua Casona San Blas, so we're really trying to sort of really continue that theme of comfort and yeah, two additional, even though we're only there for short times, really lovely properties to sort of start and finish. Machu Picchu. So visiting Machu Picchu. So as a highlight of the Sacred Valley experience, it's made via a hike along a section of the famous Inca Trail. We sort of get a transfer um, to kilometer 104 and then start the hike from there. And then visit the ruins, and then we'll train it back from Aguascalientes to Ollantaytambo, and then from there get a transfer back to the hacienda. So guided tour of the ruins, getting a bit of that sort of historical insight and understanding a bit more about the archaeological site itself. And during the trek to get there, we get to visit the ruins of Winnawanna, which is something really cool as well. Obviously, just visitors to the Machu Picchu ruins themselves can't get to that. It's only people that walk the Inca Trail, or us doing a smaller section of it get to experience, which is really nice. Um, Alternative accommodation. Yeah, so the hacienda itself, as we said, this is the focus and what the trip's been built around. But through being as amazing as it is, it comes with a bit of international popularity and acclaim, and so it is a desirable destination. So, at the moment, we sort of have blocks that have been held and reserved for us. But as time passes, the hold for those passes, and we certainly, as we get closer to departure, we may not be able to guarantee the availability. So, in a pinch where we aren't able to use the hacienda for whatever reason, we do have a couple of alternative options, which are also in the Urubamba area. Two more luxe accommodation stays, both of them equally beautiful. Um, but it's again, like we said with the Huayhuash, if there's any changes required to accommodation, it would be prior to people booking or at the time of booking that we'd be aware of that. So we'd certainly have that communication and make sure that people are still comfortable to stay wherever it may be. But first and foremost, Urubamba is Hacienda Urubamba, sorry, is where the trip is always geared to be. So um yeah, so a few sort of additional, obviously at the back end, we can have a few more questions if there's anything we haven't addressed or there's anything else you want to know. Obviously, you can reach out to us and even explore the trips in a little bit more detail at noroads.com.au. Give the office a call during the weekly work hours. Numbers just here on the screen. 03959 or email myself or any of the team. So chris@noroads.com or .com.au. And just a few of those sort of questions that we've sort of tried to preempt or that we've had in other sessions. Um, so what actually happens after booking? So when a booking's made, our system sends out an automated email, which is we call a welcome email, which contains a little bit more information about the trip itself. It will have like visa information, getting there and away, the aforementioned packing list and things like that. But again, if there's any questions that haven't been addressed, then certainly reach out and please do as well if for whatever reason the email hasn't appeared after a day or so. It may be that the email address we received isn't quite right, or that there's touch wood, hopefully not, but there may be an issue with the system at our end. So one of the other questions, why aren't meals included for every day or for every meal? And that's really because we like to give guests the freedom as well at various points. Whilst we love what a lot of these places and what the trek coordinators provide, we also understand that it doesn't always feel nice to be railroaded into things. Not that that's how we sort of view it, but it's nice to have the freedom to be able to pick a restaurant that you want to go to, or whether it be for lunch or for dinner. So it gives people a little bit more of freedom in that regard. And as I said, if you still don't have the confidence to do so, obviously the guide team or the hotel staff, they've all got plenty of recommendations as well if you still prefer somebody else to choose somewhere for you. Um, is a deposit required to secure my spot? It is. Really straightforward. At the time of booking, we just need a 20% deposit for every booking that's made at the time. And what are the payment terms? So we're pretty easygoing, but we do require the final balance to be paid 90 days prior to departure. From the trip departure, that is. Uh, can we assist in booking additional nights? We certainly can. The only thing we ask with that, it's obviously subject to availability. So always reach out to us in that regard as early as possible. So that way we have the time to get in touch with them and obviously confirm that the rate and confirm the availability. Bearing in mind that most requests that we reach out to, we usually won't hear a response until the following day at the earliest, because we're dealing with very different time zones. How fit do I really need to be? This is the $1 million question, and a really hard one to answer. Um, for trips like the Huayhuash, as I said earlier, even the fittest person can unexpectedly be stricken with altitude sickness, and all of a sudden feel like they're 20, 30 years older and struggling to walk up a gentle incline. But that being said, that's why we have the acclimatization window, and but that being said, even with the Lux trip, there's a fair amount of hiking and physical activity in that one too. Even though the longest days are probably 4 to 5 to 6 hours, depending on the group speed, for the actual hiking. We would just always encourage people to be as fit as possible. But as part of the booking process, we also do ask a few questions about um, general fitness and I guess past trekking experience. So that gives us a bit of a window into how fit you may actually be. Um, and it's not because we're prying. It's all just to guarantee that we can provide the best experience possible. So if we've got any questions for you or you for us, for example, we can sort of give pointers being on a training regime or ways to improve for that specific trip. Um, yeah, it's all about guaranteeing or trying to make sure that that people have the best experience possible. Um, can you arrange a private trip? Is the last question I've got here on the bottom of the page here, and certainly can. With the Waywash trip, we've got a lot more freedom, just because it's not reliant on accommodation so much, because it is a camping experience. It's really just ensuring that we have the availability of the guiding team. So we usually have, and obviously being a smaller minimum trip requirement, that makes it a little bit easier too. So we can certainly accommodate that really, really easily. Can also do the same for the Hacienda Urubamba, but as I said, it's a very popular destination, and looking at dates that we haven't already got held or blocked out makes it a little bit more challenging. Um, and also, if we're looking at a window where it's a more popular period, we'd obviously need to reach out to them and find out if it impacts the cost, and obviously that they've got the availability. So, um, but yeah, so the presentation as a whole, all of these little slides are actually available in a PDF form, and I believe Pete's recording the session as well.